I remember my daddy taking me and my brother fishing in the river, and we caught mullet and eels and all kind of stuff. That would have been back in the early 60s. The river was just a big river. No dams, it was just a flowing river.
The rivers of Alabama are the landscape to the identity of this place as a state. If you look at a map of Alabama that shows the rivers, it really looks like the veins of a system, like the circulatory system of the entire state, transferring life up and down from the mountains to the Gulf and then back again. Alabama is sort of the North American version of the Amazon rainforest.
The funny thing about rivers is if you don't get underwater, you'll never see what it's really like.
The Alabama River Basin is one of the most biodiverse rivers in the United States and frankly on the planet. Those rivers were here long before we got here, and they'll be here after we're not here, but those are the community's water resources.
I grew up fishing, going into the woods, finding a nice little creek off on the side of the road. People hop out of their cars and park and fish.
Well, in the beginning, there were no dams. The rivers have always been a highway, way before there was any humans to use it. But humans quickly realized that those highways were really important for us.
But in the main, the problems of the valley are the problems of America.
We did a lot of bad things to that river without really understanding the impact. You can't put a dam on a river without fundamentally altering the balance of that system.
In this corridor of mass, excavation is complete and the placing of concrete has begun.
In the upland reaches of the Mobile Basin above the fall line, you have really fast water and lots of rocks, and it's pretty hard to get a boat through. And so they started to build dams to raise the water level over those shoals that they could get steamboats and barges and things like that downstream.
When they broke ground for the Miller's Ferry locking dam, he pounded the podium and said they were building the Miller's Ferry locking dam, the Claiborne locking dam, and the Jones Bluff locking dam for, number one, recreation, number two, flood control, and number three, navigation.
It is certainly not the highway of navigation that people thought it was going to be. It's a very limited amount of hydropower versus what could be done, say, with a massive solar array. There's a big piece of concrete in the river that's blocking the river.
It's just a values thing. It was like, why should we care about this dinky fish when we have all this to gain economically from building this infrastructure? And nowadays we see, okay, the infrastructure isn't really helping us that much, and we're losing all this biodiversity. Maybe it's time we start to look at these dam impacts on fish.
We've described damming the Coosa River as the single largest extinction event in modern human history because of the species that were wiped out. I don't think anybody went into that project thinking, oh, we're gonna wipe out a whole bunch of species. It's gonna be Armageddon. These are species that if they go extinct or if they become endangered, will have repercussions across the Southeast and would ultimately impact the biodiversity of North America. In Alabama, we have this one last chance to sort of restore what was here before.
I mean, I've never seen a huge sturgeon jump out of the water. I've never seen it. And that says a lot because it really wasn't that long ago.
In 2018, the Nature Conservancy and the Corps of Engineers started discussing potential ways to get together to go through that process of screening down to what's the best, most feasible option for us. A fish passage is a means of providing fish a way around some obstruction. So in our case, the obstruction would be the dams on the lower Alabama River.
It's been described without hyperbole as the most important ecological restoration project ever undertaken in North America. And the reason is that there are so many species that will benefit from this project.
It's not always about going upstream to spawn. We sort of have to think about fish passages, turning a river back into a sort of a two-way street.
These animals evolved in and are adapted to life in rivers. They don't live in reservoirs. When they inundated those dams, they took out all the habitat for a lot of these species. There's a number of fish, mussels and snails in particular, that occur only in the Cahaba River or only in the Alabama River or only in the two rivers. This species in particular, elephant ear, Elliptio crassidens is its scientific name. Its fish host for the Cahaba is Alabama Shad.
A mussel can't really go very far, and so they have evolved very specific relationships with certain fish species. They rely on a timing match where they know fish are going to be present at a certain time, and they can key in on certain species.
To reach adulthood, its young must spend part of their lives inside a fish.
It is an incredible lesson in co-evolution of host and parasite. They have all kinds of bizarre ways for attracting the correct fish to the correct mussel at the right time. The females are required to put those larvae onto a host fish.
On impact, the mussel squirts its young into the bass's mouth.
They only stay on for 3 to 5 weeks. The larvae transform and they fall off. If the larvae don't get on the fish host, they won't complete their life cycle and they won't develop. These animals have been sitting there since 1976, not able to reproduce. When Miller's Ferry Dam closed, it eliminated fish passage for this animal. We're involved with the propagation and reintroduction efforts for threatened and endangered species all across the state. Alabama has 83 federally listed mollusks. We can't get species from where they are to where we've got recovered habitat without intervening. The AHAB systems that you just saw contain host fish for this species. It's called the southern comb shell. It was in the Alabama and Cahaba both historically. And so after the juveniles come off, we actually start the culture process here. So what this is doing is we're doing an upwelling process to grow these things out in order to grow them up for release back into the Cahaba River. Imagine the river full of these at a density between 80 to 300 per square yard. And this animal probably could filter about a gallon to a gallon and a half a minute.
If we keep the system healthy, then it will continue to work for us and provide benefits. If we had to pay for those benefits, it would be astronomical. This is a free service, and all we have to do is protect it.
This animal can be 80 years old. We have a ton of them that are hanging around, waiting for their fish host that never will arrive.
You know, I remember years and years ago, back in the 70s, it was a lot of mussel fishermen around here. And they just, I don't know what happened. They just, you know, they disappeared.
People started noticing pretty soon after that dams were having an impact on fish species. If you look back in old newspapers, you'll find like editorials from commercial fishermen saying like, I used to catch tons of eels here and now I don't see any. And it must be because the dams are blocking their migration. What's going on with that?
I remember talking to the former program director for the Cahaba River Society, Dr. Randy Haddock, who was telling me about the elephant ear mussels. And by this time, you know, by the early 2000s, we knew we were losing them.
What do you find out here?
Oh, we got bloofers and mostly bloofers, but lots of different things. Very often, if they're old enough, moving water has abraded the shell a little bit. So when they're usually parked in the stream bed like that. So gravel and rocks being moved down the river kind of erode this older part of the shell. So it started growing here and grew out in this direction, adding ring after ring.
Rock.
I mean, normally you can find quite a few here. Well, you got more dead shell than I got. I'm not sure what to suggest at this point. I was with with Paul Johnson and some others. They found all kinds of them here. Oh, hundreds. There are several examples of what we experience today of going to a place that you'd been to 10 years before and not finding as many mussels there. Well, I didn't find any. I don't think we found any live ones, and just some old relics of dead shell. Maybe we need to dig more. I don't know. Maybe they're deeper, but not doing too well. Oh, that's slick.
Yeah, it is.
Whoa.
There's one in here, Randy. I can feel it.
It has always felt like, from the beginning of this process, that the clock is ticking. I don't know how much time we have for those mussel species on the Cahaba. They're 40, 50 years old, and we don't have a really good sense of how old mussels get before they just fall off. That's why this project at this time is really so vitally important. We don't have another decade to get this right. We have to get it right this time.
It makes more sense to go back to the natural model as much as you can. By restoring this connectivity, you're giving a large additional spawning space to those anadromous fishes, and you're bringing back the host fish for these mussels.
In the early 2000s, the easy thing was, well, let's just see if we can open and shut the locks, right? If we can just keep the water flowing, we weren't seeing the results of opening and shutting the dams. We looked at a bunch of other things like, can you shoot the fish over in a cannon? Can you lift them up in elevators? Because of the time frame we're under, removing the dams would be a very, very difficult thing.
Dam removal was one of the options that we considered. That is a very localized solution to a global potential issue. Just by removing one dam, you then have issues that would potentially come up at upstream dams and other projects and other structures in the area. So would it be the most feasible option to solve our problem? It did not appear so. So that kind of is how we ended up in the situation of looking into a natural bypass channel around the dams themselves. So they're designed currently to be what we would consider a natural bypass channel or a nature-like fishway that is essentially a little stream, a creek that goes around the dam itself and allows for passage around that structure.
It was research at Auburn that told us we had to do something more, that a project like the bypass project was the only way we were going to get the results that we needed.
Everything I knew about fish passage was from what I had learned about salmon in the Pacific Northwest, and I thought it'd be a cool opportunity to do something new, you know, because not a lot of people are really working on fish passage issues in the Southeast. So this here is one of our fish treadmills. You got a big motor there that we can control the speed of, and then all that water basically just gets pushed in a circle around this track, and you put a fish in the tank, you can measure its oxygen consumption. And in here, baby paddlefish. And we're raising them up for exactly the kind of trials I was telling you about, swimming performance, things like that.
Now that we have a vision for what this project can be, there is now the question of how you pay for it. I am not dismissing the cost of this project or of any other project that does great and wonderful things, because that's how you get great and wonderful things to happen. I would also say that this is not an unreasonable amount of money compared to other projects that we invest in. You go into some other places like going out west where they do big multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar projects. They're really focusing on like a fish, the salmon. Very tasty, but it's one fish. In developing this project, we identified 19 species that were the indicators.
We have the most listed animals of any state, and our Fish and Wildlife Service receives the fewest dollars of any region. So the Southeast has the most species and the least amount of money.
If you're going to invest millions of dollars in the Pacific Northwest and the Atlantic Northeast and all around the world, why not go into the Black Belt and build something worthwhile that means something to the entire state, that frankly will help provide jobs both in the construction and in the recreational aspects later on for that community? We overlook how endangered our connection to these rivers are. These were the places that people relied on for life. And we've changed that a lot when we built the dams. And if we can restore, in just a small way, that connection of life, I think we can keep that heritage.
If we really knew the value of our biodiversity and how rare it is on a global scale, and we accept the history that has created this division between people and nature, and how we've just historically, so many groups have been wronged on this land. If we can have those conversations along with wide-scale education about the value of our natural resources, I really believe the greatest stewards of change are the day-to-day people, the people in the community. But if they don't know, and if their concerns are not heard and not acknowledged, and their history not acknowledged, I mean, the next generation may not know at all.
I've been fortunate in my career to be associated with locating 6 Lazarus species that have been brought back from the dead. So we're not done describing things yet. We changed the set point completely when we modified these large channels, and you'll be surprised what a recovery would look like. It would look like a lot of larger fish and more fish in the river than you had seen for most folks in their lifetime. In the Penobscot River, most famously, once they pulled those dams out, they started seeing Atlantic sturgeon within 7 years.
This should be the kind of project that everybody in Alabama is proud to be a supporter of. You can talk to your elected officials and say, make sure we get this right. Make sure we fund this one. Alabama has to invest in this project. Our federal representatives have to make sure that they are champions for this project. We can't wait to get it in the Water Resource Development Act of 26. That's a 2-year delay. And I can't say that those mussels will last that long.
This is the Coosa moccasin shell, and these are part of a batch that we've already released into the Cahaba River basin. These are about ready to be released here shortly. Federally endangered, yes, only in the Big Canoe Creek drainage. So these are absolutely 2 of the rarest species in North America. And now there's 5 new populations of them. Some species require 2 to 3 years before we can get them out. It's not a once and done thing. It's a repeated effort over the course of a decade to successfully get those animals established in the new area where you're trying to place them.
I've really used sort of, and am inspired by the work of Paul, because I want his work to mean something. So he's keeping the species alive while we're trying to restore the system so that they can flourish. Because wouldn't it be cool if we could restore the native runs of the striped bass? I'd love for Big Daddy to be able to put on his podcast, hey y'all, you know, it's June 15th and the stripers are running.
All right, let's see what we got here. Well, let me make sure I got some internet, because that is a problem in the rural side.
This is the end. Turning the baby loose now. Let him go back.
That was below the Miller's Ferry locking down.
Later on, my buddy. I'll catch you next time.
I love to share these type videos like this right here with people. And you can see all that on the Getting Outdoors with BDL YouTube channel. It is just a place that that for some reason the Lord gave me a love for it. It's impossible to describe what it does for me. And I'm sure it's a lot of people like that. It is a place that is sacred, I would say would be a good word to me. That's something that is impossible to explain to somebody that's never experienced it. And once they experience it, they just like me, they're hooked on it. We need to forget about all the differences we have and realize what assets we have and protect them. And they'll be here forever.